Hello everyone, this is Marek Esztok from Resco and welcome to the deep dive webinar on how to build a custom mobile solution on Force.com using Resco technology with no code. This is the first part of supposedly two-part webinar where we'll be covering the possibilities how you can use the Resco to actually create your own business application on Force.com. So let me first start by saying a few words about our company and our product. So Resco, who are we? We are a company from Slovakia, but we have our base also in USA. And we serve already more than 1.8 thousand corporate customers. We get more than 90,000 licensed users operating in more than 100 countries with more than 1 million devices running business software on Resco technology. And we have more than 600 partners who help our end customers to implement our solutions. Today, we'll be talking mostly about how to do it. First of all, let me talk a bit about why Resco platform is something you should look at if you want to develop your own mobile solution based on Force.com backend, or not only Force.com. And let's talk a bit about the major features that distinguishes Resco. First of all, we have true offline mobility. That means that on your mobile device you will have fully functioning CRM system with everything working even without network connection. So that means that you can work completely disconnected while being synchronized with the server quietly in the background while the connection is available. Also, we are running on all major mobile platforms and also the PC. So whether you have iOS, Android, or Windows mobile device, or tablet, or a phone, Resco can run there. And you can use the same customization for all of these devices. And the application will use its intelligence and logic to represent the GUI or user interface in the best way. We also invested quite a lot in auditing and security features, so you can track where your users are, where they did or didn't their duties, and you can of course see this information on the reports. First of all, we are also native application on all these platforms. We are using cross-platform framework from Microsoft, Xamarin, to actually run native code everywhere. So you will see the native performance everywhere, and also the usability is very similar to what you are used to on your target platform. Maybe the most important thing is that Resco is highly configurable, and that's something that we will get into in this presentation. That means that most of the things you can get from Resco without having to written any custom code. You can just use our configuration tool to make it work, and make it work any way you want, or look any way you want, or feel. And if the configuration capabilities are not enough for you, you can still use our JavaScript API that allows you to interact with any part of the mobile application, or even replace the whole parts of application, such as user interface. So you can write your own user interface in JavaScript, but still use the offline and synchronization capabilities and the mobile device capabilities of underlying Resco platform. You can see a lot of features down on this screen. We'll be getting into most of them. So you will see route planner dashboards, mobile update, offline reports, multimedia capturing, and everything that makes it interesting. For the agenda of today's webinar, first I will give you a short intro to how Resco platform works, kind of an architectural overview. Then I will present the target application that we are going to develop. It will be on Force.com, simple but very powerful. application implementing use case of the inspector working for a government institution who will visit hospitals and create visit reports, answering surveys, and doing all of this offline. And then, of course, after I represent you the target state, we will get into how this was done. Basically, the app you will see can be created by experienced Resco consultant, Resco configurator in a few hours. Okay, it will take a bit longer to us, probably, because we want to go through this thing slowly, but we will show you in this first part of the webinar how to configure the offline synchronization filters, how to add custom objects, their layouts, icons, how to change the logo of the application, the menus, and so on, how to configure list views so that they can be represented not only as a list of data, of text, but also in map, charts, calendars, and also configuring custom actions to be executed on the list views. We will configure some business rules, integrate route planner, and add a signature and an offline report so that you can see how you can basically create simple scheduling application. There is more that we will show in the second part, and I will advertise this at the end of presentation. So let's start. So this is a bit of introduction to Resco platform. Basically, what Resco is, as I already mentioned, is full mobile CRM solution running on your mobile phone. And it basically accesses two services. First is the regular CRM backend. In our case, it's a Salesforce to read and write business data and basically to synchronize with the business data. And it's Resco Cloud, which is basically a web service that serves only as a repository of metadata and your mobile customizations. So it somehow represents the data schema you have in your Salesforce organization in a more friendly format to the Resco technology, and allows you to create multiple configurations. We call them mobile projects for various user profiles you have in Salesforce. We'll show that a little later. And the last but not least, the Woodford configuration tool here is our configuration tool that allows you to create these customizations. Okay, and also manage them, also set up auditing and see the information collected and manage the mobile applications from. You can use Woodford for all of this. What is important to mention is that we don't store any of your Salesforce data in our Resco Cloud. So no user credentials are there, no business data are there. It's just really the schema that Resco uses to configure the app to suit your needs. So without much more talk, let's look at the demo. I will be presenting you the application on using the iPad, which is one of our mobile platforms. So this is the inspection app I'll be showing to you. Of course, Resco is multi-platform, so in the same way I can show you the same application running here on Windows 10. And you can see that they will look very similar. But now, let's start with showing you the app. Okay. So this is demo or sample application for an inspector who will go and plan their visits to the medical facilities and make some kind of a inspection, and everything runs in order. It doesn't matter what he actually inspects, but for this demo it's important how he can organize his work and how this application can be helpful for him in the field. So first of all, he can see the dashboard, and in here is a quick view of things that might be of interest to him. So first in the map view, you see that there are some hospitals he has to visit today on the map. See, the map is interactive in the dashboard. One more point is that any part of this dashboard can be also enlarged to see it on the whole screen and interact with it, or minimized again. Again, we have kind of a dashboard that shows how many visits the inspector should do in a week. You see that he's already passed his target of 5 visits this week. And again, he also can see all the visits and in which state they are. Or he can even see his plan of visits down here. So this is view of visits he is going to make today. See, the gray one here is the ad hoc visit he already completed. You see it by the check mark. He has 2 more to go. Also, he can also flip this and to see these events in the chart. Chart is configurable. So for example, not completed, still 4 more to complete, and completed just 1. You can also choose the different kind of chart directly here. So if he is more of a pie person, not a donut person, you can see this donut. And again, see it just in the list. He can also check the visit directly from the dashboard, see it on the full screen, and see that we already have something here. We'll get to this a bit later when we'll be creating new ones. And see, this is an example how we can embed a web page. So for example, these are the news from Ministry of Healthcare of Slovakia. It's a full web page that he can interact with. Again, he can maximize it and use it directly from the app, the browser. Okay, so this would be a dashboard. We can even make this bigger just by minimizing the menu. Now we see just the icons, so we can play a lot with the layout on the screen. So what he can see, again, he can use useful tools like calendar. You see the visits for the whole week, they are even color coded. The gray ones are already complete. The red ones are supposed to be completed, but for some reason they are not finalized. So for example, user can check this visit and see, yes, he already finished it, but there is no signature and no report generated, so it is not completed at this moment. So we can return to it later and finalize it. He can use a map. Map is also configurable in terms of which objects you can see. So you see the standard things like accounts, contacts. Also we have a custom object of the hospitals, which is in here, and it's interactive. I can add, enable or disable the views. So for example, I can put the hospitals away. Now I see only accounts and contacts, or I can put them back. All right, so this is for the map. Also the route planner. Route planner shows us our planned way for today. See, there are some meetings already planned to take place. Again, we can use route planner and configure which objects are available to plan meetings or events for. It's configured to handle visits as a special type of Salesforce event object, but it could be also other custom object that will be planned for. Like for example, in field scenario, you can plan service appointments like this. But in this case, it's simple. We only have events. So I can very easily add another waypoint. The system automatically suggests me the time when it should take place and where it is. You see the route plan is updated. If I'm happy, I can just save it and immediately see this in the calendar. So this is my new planned visit. Get back to route planner. I can even reschedule it from here. So I just move these visits and they are recalculated if I want. I can even plan for different people. So not just for me, somebody else. So I can have a scenario where I'm a manager and I can plan this kind of routes for my employees or for my team. So this way I just created my routes, and of course, yeah, I can consult standard objects like accounts or contacts. I can see just my contacts or all of the contacts that I have in here. I can see my hospital. This is a custom object that I configured, and it's configured to show you the map by default, the map view. But again, I can simply flip it to some kind of a chart or the list and can work with this list. Interesting feature is, for example, the multi-selection, and I can choose what I do with multi-selection. I can make them my favorite hospitals, or I can make them, export them, for example, to Excel file if I want this list to present to my boss or somebody. Even then send it via email or print it or save it with the record. I can also use some aggregation. So if I'm interested, for example, with all these hospitals, what is the average standard visit period, I can do it and I can see it here. So it's 18 up to 19. Things like that works out of the box, and you can use all these features with even standard Force.com license. So all of these you don't have to implement, it's all in one solution. You can use it with Resco and use it for your custom objects like you see here. Alright, here's our list of favorites. It can be different objects here. Very quick access to libraries of documents or to attachments to all the records. Also some business rules are implemented here. So for example, if I have my list of hospitals here, I'll go to the list view now, and I want to plan a visit to some of these hospitals, for example this one, and there is something which is called standard visit period, which is configured for free. In this case 3 days is not so much, so let's make it 30 days, like a month. Okay, and so on. I'm just changing the owner, which I didn't want to do. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So if I add a visit by clicking on plus button, you see that what actually happened is that the start date planned is 30 days from today in here automatically. Also automatically subject is filled with regular visit, the account and the related to hospital is there, and I have my new regular visit planned for me. So this is kind of a business logic you can have available offline, very simple one, but I think it shows the concept, how this can work and how this can help you. And now you already see in the list of visits that I have a regular visit planned for in a month from now. So this is for simple business rules on the forms, or more advanced if you want. So this is the kind of application that we can create out of the vanilla Resco in a few hours. So in the rest of this webinar, we will show you, or I will show you, how this can be done. So first of all, let's get a bit familiar with our Woodford tool, the configuration tool. You can download it from the web. Currently, this is a Windows Silverlight application, so you need a Windows PC to run it, but we are working very hard on the HTML version. Their first release should be out on this Christmas, end of this year, so then you may enjoy the configuration also on the Mac or virtually from any device that has a web browser. So basically what I'll do, I just log into my Salesforce organization. This is my Salesforce credentials, and I will see for this organization the list of mobile projects. That means customizations of the mobile experience and configurations of mobile experience that users will see. And they are, so see, we have quite a lot of them because this is the organization we use for most of the demos. So the ones that we are looking at are the Force demo. That means for the Force.com. We have seen the final one, the one which we will be going to or trying to replicate ourselves now. It has higher priority, and then we have some default Force.com organization configuration that you can use for any Force.com organization of Salesforce. So what I will be doing now, I will create a clone of this configuration, this mobile project here, and I will call it Force Demo Webinar, or maybe we can call it Inspection Demos. Here I see the list of user profiles from my Salesforce organization, and I will use the standard platform user. So we will do it for standard Force.com user. The custom profile is there because we need to add some custom objects, and for that we need to clone the Salesforce profile, as you probably know. But it's standard platform profile, nothing else, with just additional access to custom objects. So now I'm just cloning this default. And there is one more thing, because I already configured the final version of the demo for the same user profile. I need to increase the priority of this new mobile project. This one, via properties. It has to be higher than the final. So now I use this. I cross-check. Yeah, it's there. Okay. And now I can go in. Okay, so this is how you configure, how the user will see the Resco application in the Woodford tool. On the left side you have the menu which shows you the areas of configuration, such as home screen, which is a menu, the dashboard, branding, and offline HTML if you want to use JavaScript, defining maps, route plans, and color theme, and something that is called entities. Since Resco is a multi-backend tool, so you can use it also with different backends, not just Salesforce. We have terminology which is slightly different, but it's really easy to get a hang of it. So entities in fact represents the objects in Salesforce world. And if I open configuration, for example, for object account, you can see that we have forms here. Forms corresponds to layouts, views are list views, and chart, fields, and indexes are probably self-explanatory, they are same. As you see, there are plenty of objects that I can add, and I can just filter them by clicking here to see what is enabled in the project, because normally you don't want to get all of your Salesforce objects to your mobile device. You want to be very picky if you want to save the bandwidth and the storage space and have as good performance as you want for your users, so they can focus on their work and don't wait until everything synchronizes, right? So you see that this is the vanilla Resco configuration. So you see there is no custom hospital object in here or anything like that, just accounts, contacts, and events and tasks, standard Salesforce objects. Maybe what I want to do when I start with configuration is to make sure that I only load the objects that I want to see. As I said, this is organization used for multiple demos, so we have many accounts of many industries in there and users and so on. So I would like to limit what I have in this project. So I'll just start with account, and define so-called synchronization filter or sync filter here. So this is our tool that defines the conditions. Basically, this would compile in the background into some SOQL queries on Salesforce that will define what will be actually downloaded. I already have here some default limitation of what to download, so that industry is not the other. Let's say in this case I want the industry to be healthcare, because I only want to see the healthcare accounts. Okay, this is a synchronization filter that will make sure that when I'm synchronizing data from Salesforce to offline, only healthcare accounts will be there. And it's healthcare. Okay. While we are here, you can see that there are other possibilities how to configure what is available offline. For example, you can override the Salesforce permissions for the object, but of course you can only override them to limit them more. So if something is not allowed to be deleted in Salesforce, you will not be able to override it in Resco, of course. The mode in which you want to see the object, that's interesting. Resco is in fact able to work in online as well as in offline mode. Online means that every call is made directly to the Salesforce. So for example, if I just click here in the app, this means that now we are not using the offline database, but every call is made directly to Salesforce on the actual data as they are on the server. So you can use also Resco in this mode. As you see, it's still pretty fast. It can still open accounts and related objects and attachments or anything that you want to see. So, but this means that everything is now directly comes from the Salesforce. And you can then really use Resco in online mode and have the same customization that shows different things, different objects or different fields even for online and for the offline mode. But default is we want to see the objects in online and offline the same. We can also define how synchronization would work. So standard one means in the first synchronization you get all the data that passes the sync filter. On the subsequent synchronizations, you will only get differences. And what to do in case of conflicts. What are the conflicts? Conflict means if the different user change the value or the field of the object on the server, and it's the same field that you changed offline. And when the synchronization happens, the Resco will have somehow to resolve what to do with this. Default strategy is server wins, so your local data will be overridden by what is on the server, but you are able to also define the device wins or the user action. That means that user will determine, user will see a window during synchronization telling them we have a sync problem here and decide what will be done. Take the server version, take the client version. You can find much more information in Woodford guide document about how this works. So let's not get into too much detail. You see that now this is the list of fields that will be used in the Resco application. As you see, not all of them are there. We will show how to configure this. Just to get back, I will also configure for the contact which contacts we will synchronize to the application. Again, there is something with department that I don't want this. I will show you how you can configure the condition, the synchronization filter for the related entity. So for example, we only want the contacts where the account is from healthcare. Okay, so it just works like this. Industry equals healthcare. Okay, so it's even possible to do quite complex conditions. What you may found strange is, why do I do this? Because if I already limited accounts and in Salesforce contact this child of account, so it should be easy or natural to only load the contacts related to that accounts. Of course, Resco can do it very easily, but we just don't do it by default because it's possible that you don't want that always. So either you can do it like this via sync filter, or if you look at this parent relationship, you can use this tiny mark as parent pointer and it would do the same. So it's possible to read this or that way. I will just now use the manual synchronization filter just to showcase that it can work like this. So I did these two simple things. Now I want to make sure I know the application. So I go to branding and I will change the title. So it will be inspection. I can also design branding, which means this is our about box. So you can have different layout and style or different properties bound to this. But I don't want to do many things like that. I could also change the color theme. Sorry, you have to save everything. So I have to change the color theme. If I want, I can change the colors here. So for example, if I don't like this color, I can choose different from the palette and make it a bit slightly darker. And it will be slightly darker now, just so that we see. Okay. Maybe one more thing that I want to do, I would like to have some logo of the application so that it's more, reminds me more of the inspection and not just default vanilla. We use the images for that. So every mobile project have its own set of images or can have its own set of images bundled with it that are downloaded to the device. And as many things in Resco, as you will see further on, this is based or driven by convention. That means that if I put an image in a directory home, my home is the menu of the title menu of the application. So this is the home menu, this one here. I can use this colorize to use the color theme to actually make this image not just black, but in the color of my theme. And now I save it. Okay, I have it there. So one more step, I want to add the custom object. So I'll check all the objects I have in my organization. And I see here is my hospital object. So I'll just click on enable it and I will add this object here. So you see by default Resco only puts the absolutely necessary fields to be used in offline, but of course maybe we want more, so I'll just select all of them. I can handpick and put some away, but for now let's just have all of them in here and save it. That would mean that the object would be synchronized and will be available in Resco, but it doesn't mean that it would be displayed. Okay, so what we will do now, we'll just have to add it to the home menu. You see that once the object is available, we'll just take it here in the home and put it anywhere we want. So it's quite important. Let's put it directly under the account. Okay, and you can save it. So hospital will be now in the menu and what it will be showing. Okay, so you see we have some layouts and some views. So let's first start with the layouts. See, there is nothing here. It's on purpose because in Resco we expect that you want to have your own mobile experience and you want to define how the layout will look like for the mobile device, which is not always the same like it works for the web, which is a default way how you define this for Salesforce. I can start from the scratch by creating a new form, or I can import the existing form from Salesforce. Maybe this is the right time that I'll show you how this custom object looks in Salesforce, so that you have a bit of an idea. So this is my Salesforce organization, and this is the hospital object. So it's very plain and simple. You just have some fields and relationships. Basically, it just defines that the hospital has its name, some standard visit period, and it defines address fields, custom fields that follows the Salesforce naming. That's important, so that some conventions in Resco allows you to do some magic with that. And yeah, location field, and that's more or less that. I have one layout defined for a hospital, and not much more. So very simple, standard object in force.com for force.com user. So now back in Woodford, I just imported this default layout, and what I see, okay, I have the fields there, I have some sections, like one section called information. Here I have on the right related lists or tabs. They can be combined in any order. But what I see, there is something invalid. It means that there is some relation to the contact which is not enabled, and that's why Resco says it's invalid. So I have to go to contacts. And the fields, and say that this custom field hospital is enabled on contact. Okay, and now if I go back to hospital, my list of contacts is here. So I want to also have something more than just this, because these are only basics. First of all, if I have only one section, I don't need this title, but I add something more. I'll add address section. That's the way how it works in Resco. This is one of the conventions. If you have a tab which is called address, its logical name, Resco can automatically make some things with this address, like automatically fill it up with from your current GPS location, or complete it if you have just a partial information, and so on. So I'll just put there things like street and city and country. Maybe state is not so important for Slovakia, but postal code. I can put some spacer, and underneath latitude and longitude of location. These fields don't have to be visible, but I just want to have them here so that I can cross-check what is there. And in this way, you will see when I open it in the form, Resco will give me possibilities to make things with that, with address. Maybe I would also want the map for this layout. Automatically detects that I will probably want to use latitude and longitude fields, but I might configure different. But I will just stick with this for the time being. And I want to make this map smaller, so I'll just take one field. Okay, so I would say that this should be more or less enough for me. Maybe I want to have some more related list, like I want to put in here a list of files. I can rename it. I don't want this to be called content documents, so that just files. Okay. And if I double click here, for example, I can choose how this will be represented. Which view shall I use? Okay, there's just one, so I will use this one. And what I can configure, we will get to then when we want to really use it. In here, just very shortly, what we have in Resco is something called associated views and lookup views. We can configure different filters for them. So just to explain to you what it is, I will show you the app. Okay, so if I open the account, some of them here, and I need some lookup. Maybe I don't have lookup in account, so I have some lookup in contacts here. So if I want to choose an account, but by one click I see this autocomplete box where I can choose. But if I tap twice, this is the lookup view where I can really choose from the views. I can use search filter and so on. So these two things can have different filters, different views available and so on. I can also, if there is a chart defined, I can choose which charts should be presented. If this field would have, or this target object have defined calendar fields, then yes, you see I can configure calendar and map, even the zoom layer and some additional things like create new and which sort of representation can it take. So it can be a map, a chart, a calendar. I can disable some of them, I can disable this initial. So things like that I can very simply configure for the related lists in here. So I'll just put there files and save. And let's go to the views, because we would like to have some of the views somehow represented in the list. Okay, so here I'll just import again from the Salesforce. I'll start with that. I'll import all hospitals. I get some information about how the import went. This is the default view. If I open it, I'll just have here the hospital name, very simple view. But maybe I want to have it more interesting. I can use some of the built-in designs or copy design from other entity. I'll just use the built-in with one primary field and two secondary fields to be shown. So I choose that I want to see the account and the primary contact of this hospital in the list. And now let's configure something more, because here I just say, okay, I want to see something, but what can I do with this view? What more can be done? So, first of all, there are some commands that I can add so that user can get some context out of it. So, you see, if I click on buttons, I have some selection of default commands that I can use, that Resco offers me. I have also ability to define my own new command now. So I'll just say, if I click on hospital, maybe I want to call automatically my primary contact or write him an email. Maybe I want to simply put it to my favorite list, and maybe I want to export them like I've seen before. So all of this I can just configure here. And also, as you have seen, we have commands for multi-selection. So what do I do if I multi-select? So maybe I want to make more favorites, maybe I want to delete them, maybe I want to export them again. Or maybe send links to multiple fields in the email. I can do this just like this. Okay. You may have a question, okay, but how do I know who to call? There is no field for phone number or email on hospital. And as many other things, again, this works by convention. You can select which fields get loaded with the view in here. So if I say that I want to load from related primary contact some fields representing phone numbers, like assistant phone and home phone, and maybe also email and mobile phone. Click on OK. So if such fields are present in the view, Resco will automatically offer me a possibility to choose from these numbers if they are filled and to execute a call. I can even do it from more related objects. So also I can go to account and say, okay, take account phone 2. and I will see that list of fields when I click on call. The same for the email. So this is just how it is done. You control it by what you put into view, what the user will get offered. In a similar way, if I want to see this view on the map, I'll just select fields that represents a location. Okay, so it's a latitude and longitude fields, and if they are in the view, Resco would know that they can be shown on the map, and it will give me that possibility as a user. So again, just this, just by convention. And since I've already put this on, fields in there, and I will be presenting this view on the map, maybe I want to tell how it should look on the map. So I just used add map pin, and here by using this binding expression, just defined here, I'll just try to, I can say which image from the image bundle downloaded with the project should be used for a pin. So there is something which is called pin blue, but maybe I want to see my nice hospital icons. So I use pin hospital PNG. Okay. And now I'll make sure that this pin is also available with the images. So if you remember, this was a controls directory in the bundle. Here are some pins I'm already having, but no hospital, so I'll just add this hospital pin I have prepared. We'll call it pin hospital, and yes, it will work now. So going back to my view, so I made sure I can add some commands that I will be able to see this on the map. What else can I do? I can edit a filter, so of course view can have filter, but since this is all hospitals, it's the same. I can edit how it is sorted by default. Yes, so in Salesforce I defined that it should be by account, but maybe it makes more sense to do it by hospital name. And search, that's interesting, because you can search not just by name, but you can choose any of the fields to search. So it's not just hospital name that is interesting to me, but also my primary contact if I know the name, or the name of the account, or maybe from the city or postal code. I can choose everywhere if it begins with or contains that expression I said, or just ends with that expression. So I just give there a begins with anywhere, and maybe contains for the hospital name. I can define this too. I can say which fields user can use for sorting or for filtering, and if hospital would have some date fields, I can make it available also in the calendar. Okay, but it probably doesn't make sense to put it on the calendar just we've created or modified, but it could make sense for something else. But so now it's not configured, and hospitals will not be on calendar. That's for the visits. So there is more you can do with this, and maybe we'll get to that slightly later. But now I think that's quite a lot of things we do without actually showing what it does. So let's just save it. In Resco, when you do this configuration, all you do to make it available to your users is publish. Now it's being uploaded to Resco Cloud. Okay. And if I just now go back to the application, I'm on my iPad, and I just say refresh. Okay, so now what is new? Okay, so what is new is that we have some hospitals object in the menu. However, it has some ugly default icon. We would probably want to change that. I will get to that later. But hospitals are already here. If I click on them, I can see them in the list. I can flip them and they are on the map. Excellent. They use the pin button that I configured. So if I want to see only the hospitals from the Ministry of Healthcare, I just put their ministry. Okay. And I see only the hospitals from Ministry of Healthcare. I can clear it at any time. So also the search works for me. I can also flip it. Here's some more. I can open one of the hospitals, and what I see it on the map. I see the contacts, I see some files that I could add to this, in the description. I see the address, what I can do, since I have this address tab, I can update GPS, and I can use address in the records to update the GPS location, or I can use the current position and move this hospital to Resco, to the same location where Resco is, for example, like this. Okay? But since I am in the building, it's not possible to get the GPS coordinates. That doesn't matter, it would work otherwise. Okay? So, but let's do some more configuration. I'll show you something more that I can do. So first of all, let's go back to Woodford and fix the hospital icons. Again, it's the convention in Resco. So for the menu, I go to the familiar home folder. I'll choose nice picture and say just use the logical name of the object. So in here it is, in Resco, the logical name of Salesforce objects starts with prefix SF- and then it's hospital C. Okay, hospital C is Salesforce API name. The prefix is there because again we are multi-backend solution, so just to distinguish it from any other objects that we can use. So I'll just put add and copy this for later. And I can choose different icon or the same one to appear on the forms when it shows the related lists. And in that I use the tabs folder and do the same thing for the tabs. I will choose the same icon. And now when I will have associated lists of hospitals, they will also have the same icon, and also in the menu this will be the icon. Maybe more things. For example, in the home screen, when I click on my hospitals, I want to see them on the map by default. Okay, so I just go here to the configuration and say that initially I should show it as a map. Okay. Maybe I also want to have some chart view of the hospitals, for example. So that's an example how I create simple chart. I will create a chart, I will call it by account. So we will create a pie chart, because I'm more of a pie than a donut person, and say that use account, and also for the labels use the account. I can configure for a chart what user can drill down, so that I don't want to overwhelm him with lots of fields that make no sense to drill down upon. I can just remove some of them which doesn't make much sense, like for example is deleted, or description, activity dates, maybe that's also not so important, latitude and longitude. Now the owner, maybe postal code makes sense. Okay, that could be. So what we can drill down upon. Alright, I can even add some additional custom filter for this chart. And as you see, there are a lot of other types of charts I can use. So for example, it can be line chart, bar chart, or gauge or funnel. But it doesn't matter, I can switch between these charts right in the app, as you've seen online. But now I just created this chart. So again, by convention, if the chart is defined and you don't forbid the chart will be automatically flippable in the views. So if I go now here to the home and see my hospital, I will see that automatically I can use it. If I unclick it, then I wouldn't be able to see it in there, but I just leave it be. Okay. Maybe what I also want to see, in addition to this, is that on the account form, I want to see my hospitals, right? So again, they are conveniently here, and I put them here. Okay, even before address. Here, but here I want to make sure they are displayed as a list, not as a map. Okay, so I'll just do it like here. I say how many fields should be researched. Like, let's say 4 hospitals at the same time. And I can configure this very easily. So now I can navigate them from the account screen. All right. So if I publish it now, I'll just have to wait for publishing process to end and do this. I have so you see hospitals now have a beautiful icon. They are shown by default on the map. If I open them, I can see this form in the layout. Maybe I prefer different layout. I will show how it is configured. Okay, and that should be it. Okay, also when I go to accounts, I can see my list of hospitals here. I can even flip it for the map if I want, or for the chart, but of course just for. Okay, so you see, this is how we've configured these things. So then one more point, how to change this layout of the form, which is not so nice when I see it full screen. I can even make it smaller. Now it makes more sense, but in the full screen layout there is not enough place for address and information, and maybe too much place for map and contacts. So if I go just here to the form and use the layout, choose it's 2-panel automatic, or I can switch it to 66%. As you can see, I can also say if full screen can be used, if user can resize it, and so on. And even if I should use something called flexible form that I will show you in a minute. So for example here, now I make it bigger, and for account I will show you what will, or no, I will show you in the app. So I'll publish it. So now if I go some full screen, then I have more space for my information, and I have less space for related lists. And you see it doesn't make much difference in this kind of a view. Okay, so now we are able to actually configure that we see a hospital and what it does, see it on the map. But still, if I click, I cannot still schedule visits. You see, if I click on the route planner, there are only accounts available. If I go to calendar, yes, I don't see any events. Why is it so? Right? Because I want to see all events. Okay, I see the events now, but they are not color coded, and I'm definitely not able to do anything interesting about the visits. So in the next section, we'll look into it. How do we make it possible for the app to actually plan visits, put them on the route planner, and so on. Okay, so first of all, we start by going to the event object, which we will use as a vehicle for visits. And we will make sure that in this application, with a sync filter, we will only show the events of type hospital visits. This is how I have it configured in Salesforce. Okay, so we will not load any other objects. Now we will create, because we have here views for visits already, we will create a view that will show us the visit that we wanted to see. So I'll just take these all events and clone it and call it all visits. Okay, so here I have my new view that shows me the visits. I want to make it slightly different. So first of all, as you noticed already, that if I go to accounts, and if I show you all the events of the account, I can see it here, but maybe here. I have a view that defines, I'll try to hospitals, that would be the best. Okay, so if I see, I don't see it here. So thing is that I have here an icon configured that shows me in dashboard, that you will see. That's great. So thing is, here I have an icon that shows me if the event is private or not, and then it's either a blue one or a red one. So for visits, I want something else to be displayed here. I want this to contain this nice check mark that you have seen before, that will show if the event is completed or not completed, or the visit is completed or not completed. So we'll start with this. How this is achieved is again by convention, and most of everything in Resco, and that is we need to have a field enabled called is completed. You can also use a state of event to do it, but in here, since it's easier to use something that Resco supports out of the box, we'll just use this is completed 2 options button. I have to enable it, and then in the view, in my all visits view, I have to bind it to this field. So I'll just select it and say load it to the view, load is completed event, and bind it to this picture. Okay, so it's now bound. But how do we choose which picture to use? And this Resco uses, or for this Resco uses styles. Styles define how things look like by but also in some cases can define some logic how to choose the, for example, here the image. So I go to edit styles and I find this style, event icon style, and here see the magic format string. What does it mean? That means that it says that take an image from folder event with name private dash value that comes from binding .png, and that I'm going to change a little for our visits. So I will create a new style. I will call it event or visit icon style, and I say that name would be event is completed, and the bound value will be true or false. Okay, I just save it, this style, and now I will use this style here. And as you probably already guessed, to actually have these icons available, I have to go to images and upload them into directory event. See, so now you see these are the two icons that I have here. So I'll add some more. So for completed event this, and for value false, this one. Okay, just like that, and that should work now. All right, so if I look at the view now, I'll just cross check. Yes, it's a visit icon style, and the visit is defined like this. Okay, what Resco can do, it can also make you be able to actually change the value of the bound field directly from the view. So for example, you can do something like clicking on this checkbox and check it, and for that again we have something which is called the kind of control. Now it is image, but we can make it image direct edit, which means that it immediately updates. There is also an edit, which means that it would update it, but then you would have to confirm it with saving. So I make it a direct edit. Just like this, I would be able to change it immediately from the list. You will see. Then I can save it and close it. I would also want to see on the hospital form the list of my visits. So I put there an event list. Again, I consider it to be important, so it will be the first thing. And I say that I only want to see the all visits view here in both associated views and lookup views. So I'm not interested in the others. Okay, I can save and close. I said I want to see the 4 records at the time, and I can save it. All right, so now I will be seeing these, and I will be able to at least add some visits that will have their icons. I want to also be able to do the planning from route planner, so create this. And so how do I do it? I go to route plans and will configure a route planner. Again, it's more or less easy. I can configure which object to create when I plan a part of the route. Usually it's event, but you can basically configure any object, even custom object. start field and end field bind to this object. Where you find the related entity, that's the important thing. This is how you are able to say that, for example, plan related fields to event. If I could directly complete from route planner, which is the status of completion, so it's yes of this field is completed, default duration of the meetings, and when the planning should start. Also, I can put GPS of the default location where I work, so it can be used. Filter fields is something that allows me to only show which events or which objects should be displayed in a route planner. So currently it's only ones that have assigned to, and that's the funny part, that I can use it also to assign to other people. Because if I put there some limitations on the filter fields, they will be also automatically assigned to the newly created events. So in this way I can use this to assign or to create route plans for other people, like this. And these are the source views, so what shall be displayed on the route planner. So if you see the app, how it looks like now, if I click on my route, I only see here my accounts, or I can see all accounts. So here I can configure that I also can see all hospitals, and I want to see them there by default. And if I save this, I will see them there. Okay. There is maybe one more thing that I want to do, because anytime I use the route planner to create an event, I want to make sure that it's a hospital visit, and I don't want the defaultly generated name, but I want something that tells me that it's a hospital visit generated by route planner. So this is see here, I have some event handlers that can be executed, custom business logic that I can define to be executed when we add an item on route planner or when the item is completed. Okay, so for example, when I add an item, as I said, I want to make sure that in this object or entity, I want to set its type to hospital visit. Okay, and I want to define its subject field, and I call it, I don't know, I made it through a route planner, so it's probably not scheduled or not driven by some standard visit period. So I say it's ad hoc visit at, and I want to put there a name of the account. So I use function concat ad hoc visit at, and I will use the related to field or what ID. It's a technical name in Salesforce. Okay, and I save it. So this way I can use route planner already to plan. Okay, so if I just publish it now, and look to my iPad, all right. So now if I click on my route, you see the hospitals appeared here. They're already there. I can add some more to my route now. So for example, I'll add the fourth one. Okay. I'll save it. So it's here. You see it's called ad hoc visit at Good Care, but it's in there. I can already plan it like this. And I can see it on my calendar. It's in here for today. Yes. It's really late, but it's planned in here. Okay. You see that in the calendar, I still see the old view of the visits. But if I go to hospitals, I see the list of visits. Now I can see the new view that I defined. Okay, it's just because I didn't set it up in a way that it also should be used in as a default view in the calendar. So how do we configure a calendar to do the right thing? Again, very simply, say that don't use these views that are defined, just use all visits in a default way, and it will be used there. Then in a very similar way, we can define what is shown on the default map. See, it's only accounts and contacts, and I can also add the hospital to be there. The view all hospitals, show it by default. And again, it will be stored in there. And now the user will see it by default. If I want to make sure that everywhere where it's not defined explicitly, I want to see my view all visits and not all events, I can use the properties and say that use this as an initial view. Okay. There are some more interesting settings, like you can hide it from user and only use it in the configuration, this view. We can choose if this view is only available in online and offline mode. And we can say that apply the synchronization filter in online mode. That would mean that if you would use this view in online mode, you still want to see only the things that you defined by the synchronization filter. That might make sense in many cases. Okay? All right. So I'll just define this. And now it will be nicer. There was one more thing that, if you remember, that you could do in our initial demo of the application, and that was the possibility to use business rules to plan or the next visit based on the standard visit period of the hospital. Okay, so how would you do that? Okay, so let's see. If you go to the form, also form has event handlers. Handlers similar to what you've seen in the route planner. And these are the places where you can add your business rules. So the event already has some of the rules, and I will show you how you can add custom one. To save some of the time, yours, I will import the final script that does it and then walk you through it. So I'll just import. So what it does is whenever you open this form from the screen of hospital, which is this rule, and that says that if we have a new object and the start date time is not defined by somebody else, and the target of relationship, that's kind of a way how Resco knows from where the form was open. So it was open from the hospital form, then set the type of entity to hospital visit, that's logical. And then we can use variables, like here are the variable, to actually load the last visit date on that hospital. How do we do that? Here, I just import it, so I have to save it to open the variable. So I define the variable, say that it should be initialized by load the aggregate expression, and then I defined that it should load the event object, and here I defined the condition for that object. So it should be all the, in this case, hospitals related to this. Sorry, all the events related to this hospital. Okay, the hospital. And sorry, again, I have to reopen it so it's sized properly and you see everything in there. Okay. And I take the one which has the maximum start date time and take the maximum start date time. So like this, you can define an expression that actually loads me the date of the last visit. Then I use the similar approach to load the referenced object, which is the hospital. And then, sorry, I have another condition. So if both of last visit date and standard visit period have been found, we'll just make sure that we'll set up all the other variables like start date time and the subject. We set it to regular visit and hospital name, and also we make sure that the contact person of the entity is the contact of the event. I can even add some text to make it clear for the user that system or the app actually changed or set up some variables. In this case, yeah, the next start date and also the contact person automatically. It is even possible to choose the variable and put there some text from the object, but I don't want to do that in this case. I'll just save it. And publish. So that's probably about it, what we could do in today's webinar's time. We will continue next time with further features. Before that, I'd like to share with you a few links to useful resources. So first of all, here is how you connect to Resco in this URL. It's basically very simple. You just use your favorite app store and download Resco application, connect to it with your Salesforce credentials, and just there you are. You can access your Salesforce organization. Then what is important for you is Woodford Quick Guide for Salesforce. We'll get some more information on the basics and also things that I just fly through in this webinar, and then the Woodford Full Guide where you have everything in a detail. And in the next session, what we will be getting into is the custom dashboards and how to create them, also how to set up offline maps and how to define custom layers on the offline map and see them in the application, how to make a simple survey as you have seen in the demo on the start, how to create a mobile outage, how to enable it, and how to make sure that you see if your users are on the spot, the color coding for calendars and also for lists, how to embed mobile reports, and also the UI replacement. That means if you are not satisfied with the default Resco's UI, you can actually use your own custom HTML. So these will be the things that will be covered in the next session. So I would like to thank you for your today's attention, and hopefully we'll be talking to you very soon. on another webinar with more interesting things about how to use Resco to create your own business application with almost zero coding based on the Resco Mobile technology. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye bye.